Hey, Jefferson, it's a pleasure to have you. So I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty excited about talking with you today for a couple of reasons. One, I run a research company for lawyers, and you are a best lawyers ones to watch honoree. But two, you focus on communication as part of your outreach and brand alignment to the industry. And I think communication is one of the biggest things that is missed, whether it's professionally or personally. And hearing the way you talk about it through your Instagram videos, I think it's very enlightening and helpful for not just the legal industry, but for anybody in a relationship. Myself, I think I've been told many times I've got some communication problems. So that's something I like working on. So I'm eager to learn more about what you're doing and how you got into this.
Well, thanks, Philip. I appreciate you having me on. And you're not the only one, me included. We all at times have what they call failures to communicate.
Yeah. So what was the aha moment for this to be your content creation strategy outside of just the legal? What made you go, I want to make some content on communication?
Yeah, so I'd been a partner at a defense firm. I was there maybe a little over 8 years. I decided I was going to start my own law firm for a multitude of reasons. And when I left, I went from having a corner office, like 3 different paralegals, to just me in coffee shops, and just me and my laptop. That's all I have, brother. That's it. But I was incredibly happy. I knew I was on the right path of doing what I wanted to do and helping the right people. And I thought, well, I need to start promoting my business with social media. And so I started looking up how other people were doing videos. And at that time, lawyers were treating it like the new billboard frontier. Lots of like quick videos, what to do after a car accident. Here's some video of an accident, and then they swipe to, if you've been in a car wreck, call blah, 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 blah. You get it.
One call, that's all.
You got it. Yep. Yeah, there's lots of those. And I tried one, Philip. I paid a buddy of mine to film. I was like, it's got to be this TikTok style, is what I kept telling him. I didn't really do anything on TikTok, but I just knew that was the answer. Do that. And of course, I made a video on one of the most original things you could do, and that's what to do after a car accident. And so I paid him, and I posted it. I was so nervous about it. And you know how many people saw it, Philip? Nobody. Zero people saw it. It got hardly any traction on Instagram, next to nothing on TikTok. And I was Googling why my videos have 0 views. And what was worse is I just didn't feel like me. I looked at it and I just felt gross about it, just because I was selling. That's all I was doing, was selling. And I thought, this just isn't right. What gives anybody any reason to continue to watch this? What value am I really giving them? And so I had this, what you termed as the aha moment of, well, what if I did everything different that you would expect an attorney to do? What if I didn't talk about law? What if I just made something that could help them be in their conversations at work, be in their conversations at home, to just be top of mind in a way that can help them and bring value? And I thought, well, what's one thing that I feel that I know how to do better than anybody I know in my world, and something I'd like to do and talk about, and that's communication. It's something I grew up with, and I have a gift for it that I feel like I can share, something that I use in the courtroom. So I've started to make my first video, and immediately after that, they say that's how it goes. Everything just started taking off from there.
Do you have any hidden talents with communication outside of just the courtroom? Like, are you a secret musician, singer? Are you a poet? Is there some content out there that's going to come out one day that we're going to find out about?
Oh, maybe. That sounds cool. I am a musician, and okay. I do love, I would say I'm a creative mind. I really like, I've always, I can paint well, I can draw well. I've always loved music. I've always been somebody who doodles on things, or write music, play multiple instruments. So I've always been drawn towards that when I was in business school at the University of Texas, and I did marketing. I love marketing. I love that aspect. I love brand. In a different world, I'd probably be one of those person who like builds logos, like a graphic designer, thinks about vision for brands. That kind of stuff gets me so excited. And this all kind of just fell right within that perfect place for me to do a lot of the things that I love at one time.
Yeah, not surprising. So I'm a musician as well. So I sense a bit of creativity coming from you because you're talking about trying to fit the mold, basically. You've got in the law, like, what do? They make these videos, these billboard ad type marketing materials, and no one really wants it. I know when I first became the president of Best Lawyers, I knew, at least I had the vision of what a president is supposed to do. You know, I have to dress in a suit every day. I need to be very authoritative. I have to remove the person that is me and be, well, I need numbers driven and it has to be this. I lost myself in that for a couple of years and realized, thankfully, because of my leadership team and my personal life, hey, just be you. You're great. Be the person that got you to where you are. So leaning into that creativity. And so I love that you realize you need to lean into some of that creativity to bring in your marketing moment. So you mentioned starting at coffee shops. Is this why we started in the car for the video recordings? What was the inspiration for the car?
That's exactly how we got in the car. I didn't have an office. I didn't have an office. And at the time, my son was 2. He was 2. Well, right when my daughter was born. So she was, months old. And it's not like you can do anything in the house. The house is kids. Yeah, right. We're going to say, hey, everybody be quiet while I make a video. And I didn't have anywhere else to do it. And so I thought, well, where do I have any silence? And so it was the car. And then it just became a matter of convenience. I mean, I don't have to worry about some studio. I mean, what you're seeing right now, what I'm in is I just built this within the last month and it's at my house. And so I didn't have that. And it just became, I think that is key for anybody wanting to start in social media. Do what is convenient. Don't do what you think is perfect. Just because that was one of the biggest drivers, I feel, on a lot of the content is because they felt it was authentic. They saw my kids' car seats. They saw the mess. They saw it like I'm in it with them. Most attorneys, they only make a video if they're in a suit, if they're at a desk, if they're, it's some other way that they feel like they have to look like an attorney. The draw was the exact opposite. Just people are drawn to the contrast, especially when it's genuine.
I love the authenticity approach. It goes back to my story as well. Like, it's not about wearing the suit every day. Figure out how you are the person you are and be the best version of that to help those around you.
Yes,
so,
you got it.
Because anybody who wants to start, I'm not a big fan of excuses. So when people say, I would love to do this, but those drive me absolutely crazy because maybe I don't have a studio microphone. I don't have the multiple cameras. And so your approach to, I've got a car, it's my personal space. It's where I can have some peace and quiet and I can actually talk about the things I care about.
Yeah. And the lighting's not too bad either. It's just, I make it with my phone, the same phone that I use every day. I don't have some producer. I don't need an editor. I don't need some fancy microphone. You just do it right where you are.
I love that. So what were people saying when you started this? What were people saying? Because obviously I'm sure people were supporting, oh yeah, of course, do TikTok, talk about the truck accident, the car accident, talk about that. And you decided, I'm going to just talk about this inside of my car. What were people saying?
Well, at first I was trying out trend videos. Like there's a lot of lip syncing stuff that was really popular at the time, have some kind of audio and then you mouth the words. And people have always been very pro on my content. They've always been very complimentary. They've always been kind. I have not come across anybody that considered it negative in some space. I'm not doing things that are like cutesy or trying to get a laugh or anything like that. So it's never been negative, but I will say it was there for a while. It was very nerve-wracking to post the people you know. It's a lot
Mm,
easier when you post and you don't know the people you're posting in front of. When I post a video, I have a lot more viewers. I don't know them personally, but when it was only at 800 followers and they were all people from high school, college, and law school, that's a lot more intimidating, because then you really care about, do they like it? Did they not like it? Did they think it's stupid? And it was way easier to get into my head back then. And what I told myself was, no, you just have to go through it. This is part of it. There's no getting around it. The only way to figure it out is to do stupid things to where you figure out what the right thing is. And that's how I got started.
I love it. The getting uncomfortable is the hard part. While you're telling me that story, I'm thinking about myself as a musician. When I write music, I'm very particular about the people I'll play that music for, because I'll
Yeah.
play it for a stranger faster than I'll play it for somebody I highly respect as a musician.
Absolutely. Yeah. Anytime if I'm speaking somewhere and there's people I know, much more intimidating. It could be they could only be 1% of that entire crowd, but for whatever reason, it's, that's kind of the subjective mind. But yeah, you have to experiment with stupid before you find smart. That was
I
kind
like
of
that. Quote that one. Trademark that
yeah,
one.
that was the mantra.
Actually, let's do an exercise here. You just mentioned that it's much harder when you're speaking in front of people you know versus
Yeah.
strangers in the crowd. What advice would you give to someone, whether they're a lawyer or a kid in high school who has to give their senior speech? What do they do when they're amongst their peers and they're speaking and they're nervous?
Mm. You have to remember that people are rooting for you. Like
Mm.
nobody, unless you're maybe in court and you have an opposing counsel, nobody's rooting for you to do bad. They want you to do well. Some of the people who are what you may consider the underdog personality, where they're not the most popular kid, they're not the most popular person, and they get in front of an audience and people can feel if they're genuine and authentic and if they're nervous. And if somebody's in front of you on stage and you can tell they're nervous, you don't go, "Oh, look at this joker. Get off the stage." No, you're like, "Come on, you got it. Yeah, you got it. We're listening." Like you almost encourage that. So it would be that people are rooting for you whether you know it or not. And you have to think of them as people on your team, people that want to see you do well and succeed. And you have to turn that feeling of nervousness into excitement. That's a whole lot harder, but it's just a matter of talking to yourself to get you in that mode of you have something exciting to share. And the people that are with you are going to be with you. And the people that aren't, they were never going to be part of your team anyway. So those aren't people that you need to put a whole lot of stock in.
I like that. That's great advice. If you were so I'm looking at your career change here. You're
Yeah.
learning to use the tools you have. You're working in a coffee shop. You're making videos in your car. You've got a young family. You are growing your business that you decided you're going to start up.
Yeah. Building
Your
a
own
law
shop.
firm. Yeah.
Yeah, building this law firm. What advice, knowing you've gone through this and you're still in this? I know this has
Mhm.
been a wild journey, and I want to talk about some of the other stuff you're doing, kind of the
Yeah.
exciting moment we've had. But what advice would you give for the young lawyer starting off? And I also want to know, what advice would you give to someone who's been in this legal field for a long time? Are they, if they're trenched in this market and they want to also get to social and make a change, is it something you can do in your 50s, or is this a young lawyer's game when we talk to this type of marketing approach?
Yeah. So two sides of that is what I would say to the young attorneys are, make as many mistakes as you possibly can that don't have to do with the law. So find ways of
That's a good
yeah,
thing.
yeah, that's not malpractice, you know? So there's very quickly they'll learn, I hope, where in terms of, let's say, civil litigation, not the criminal side, but and that's civil is my experience, is that there is the business of law and then there is the practice of law.
Mm.
So to try cases, take depositions, get expert witnesses, work up a case. That's the practice of law. That's where you can get in trouble. Then there's the business of law, how you manage your practice, how do you market, how do you get in leads, how do you drive revenue, be the most efficient with your time. That's where you can get the most creative. And a lot of young attorneys, they're going up against the Goliaths, the firms that have been around forever, and they have the $1 million a month marketing budget, and they have that. It's a whole lot harder to compete. So you have to find ways to get creative in every way that you can. And social media is the key to that, at least at this time in our history. It is just free marketing that you can do that. As long as people like you, they're going to hire you. For those that are on the other side, the ones that are, let's say, 50 and above, they feel like they're on the downhill slope, whatever that means. There's always still time, plenty of time for social media. What my warning would be is, if you think that I don't need this social media stuff, okay, that's fine. Just know your business is dying. Like it just is. It just is. This is the technology now. This is where we are in the world. And those that dismiss social media, just be prepared that you need to retire and your business will eventually go away. I mean, it is too easy on social media nowadays. I mean, what I always ask when I speak to groups of attorneys, sometimes I get hired to speak at other law firms, which is fun, or legal conferences, is I ask the question, if you didn't work where you'd work, would you follow them on social media? And the answer almost always is no. I mean, they just think about it the wrong way. They think that they have to produce content that is only law related. That is a very small audience. You have to find ways to broaden that and talk about things and drive value to people to follow your page, to want to share your content. And it's not about talking about the law.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that you've been found in my network outside of the legal world speaks to it directly. I know people who know nothing about the legal industry. My background, I'm actually a software engineer, so I don't come from a legal background myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I say, oh, I'm interviewing Jefferson Fisher today, and people go, oh, I know him. He was on this podcast. What a great speaker, has insights into X, Y, and Z. I think that kind of underscores what you're talking about. Would you follow this person in their marketing content outside of the legal industry?
Yeah, I try to put it in for other attorneys. I say, look, imagine you're on a stage and there's just a stadium full of attorneys. That represents everybody who's in your state. How in the world, if I have a problem, a legal problem, do I know who's the best? How do I find a way to relate to you? It's not about how much money your firm made. It's not about the billboard you have. It's just, I'm going to probably ask my friend who I know. Why am I asking my friend? Because I feel like I have a relationship with them. Okay, then how do you start building a relationship with people that will never know you and you may never know them? How do you build a relationship? Social media is that answer. And so you're right. I have people that they probably can't name 2 attorneys in their own town, but they know who Jefferson is because they follow social media and they know he's an attorney, and I get their call even if I'm in a totally different state, and I never left my car.
That's a great tagline and plug right there. I like it.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what platforms you started off on TikTok. What platforms are you using? If you were giving advice to someone right now and you said, hey, or they were wanting to get in the social media world, where would you tell them to go get on?
I would tell them, I would do Instagram and TikTok as a start. Each one has a very separate audience, separate kind of algorithm of how they drive videos and value. The biggest thing is just to do it. Don't get worked up about how it looks and sounds. Just, you need to have guarantee. This is where they go wrong. People post one video and nobody watches it and they're like, I guess, well, that's that. I tried that. And they ignore it. Or they put out 5 videos and they're like, why am I not viral yet? That's not the way it goes. You need to have a full slate of videos that have all done bad. They're going to be bad. They're supposed to be bad. And that's just part of that process.
You
But
know,
what's going to happen is you'll have that one video that does well, and you'll go, oh, why did it do well? Oh, well, let me do a little bit more of this and keep doing that. And then you build upon it and you build upon it. I would definitely stick with Instagram and TikTok, because they're just much more friendly video wise, easier to navigate. Is TikTok is probably easiest to get followers on, but it is the hardest to build community on.
Do you spend any time, not getting into the weeds here, but do you
Yeah,
spend any time thinking about SEO when you're making videos and posting this content, or do you let just the social platforms lead that conversation for you?
I let the platforms do it. I believe in SEO, kind of like I believe there's probably a Bigfoot out there, but I don't really know how much does it help. Who really
Yeah.
knows? And
I,
so I have, yeah. And so I have my stuff is all of my content is organic, and so it's just much more freeing to go. You know what? I'm going to think of one person I can help. I'm going to make this video, and you get to a point where you just don't care how many people see it. It's just if that helped that one person. So sometimes I get a lot of comments and I'm like, I don't think this is a very good video, but one person will say, this is exactly what I needed. Thank you so much. Like, then that's my metric right there. Then I don't have to, if that right there is worth it to me, what else could I want to say this really helped that
well,
one
at this
person?
point, what I'm wanting is to know there's a Bigfoot documentary out there with you on it.
Exactly. Yeah. Anybody making a
Oh,
history
what?
documentary, just include me. It's I'm just kidding. It's that idea of I don't worry about the SEO of the videos. Um, they just kind of drive themselves and let the algorithms do what they're going to do.
Okay. Talking about your content, you mentioned earlier that people say positive things about your content. And one of the things we noticed when looking into and learning more about you is your content is uplifting. It's got a real positive message, comes from a good place. Is that part of your upbringing, or is that just part of your approach, or what makes you put the uplifting part in your message?
Mm, definitely part of my upbringing, um, and my values as a Christian, but it's not. I didn't make it as a religious thing at all. I didn't
Mhm.
want that. I just wanted it to be a source of positivity. There's so much negative on social media.
Mhm.
There's plenty. You don't have to look hard. Um, it can be in the video, it can be in the comments, it can be everywhere. And so it was just how can I bring light into communication and talk about speaking to each other with kindness. And it's also that contrast element because us attorneys have not done a great job of having a reputation for being very uplifting figures or
Mhm.
figures of trust. Uh, just we're right there with like car salesmen. Like we're considered, especially on the personal injury side, um, ambulance chasers, slick, sleazy. You know, and there's still attorneys that do not help that reputation at all. And so that is not who I am, and that's not me. So I wanted to make sure that what I put out was the opposite of that.
So you mentioned that, when you're looking at your content in the comments, if there's, if it's not performing to the level you think it is, but there's that one comment that says, "This is what I needed today." Do you
Yeah.
have any personal examples where you put something out and it affected you, the content you created has truly affected someone in a way,
Mhm.
whether it helped them with a case or an issue they were dealing with, where they've gotten that feedback?
Yeah, I get lots of wonderful, wonderful feedback and messages and emails from people using my stuff that is incredibly humbling. One that sticks out to me, it's one of my favorites, is this guy. He's in Texas and he helps parents that have kids they're going through a divorce. It has to do with the foster system as well.
Mhm.
And he's kind of a mediator between them. And he said he used one of my tactics to help de escalate the argument. And because he was able to get them to agree, the kids are going to have a much better future because of what they were able to line out together. And so he was very much that this would not have happened had we not used, if I had not seen your video on Instagram and been able to implement this. And I made this video in my car, Philip, and then all of a sudden you're saying these kids that I'll never know or ever meet are going to have a better life. I could change the trajectory of their world because of a video that I made. It's this ripple effect that it'll eat me up of just the amount of responsibility that has been generated when you make videos that really help people and do it from from doing it from the right place.
No, that's a really amazing story. So
Yeah.
do you feel that lawyers are driven or need to be driven to make a societal impact more than just upholding the law? Because this is a great example. You're affecting the lives of someone through your content, through advice of how to communicate to someone utilizing that. Do you feel it's a responsibility of lawyers, whether the young generation or the old guard?
I think attorneys, by virtue of why they went to law school, and that's to help people to navigate legal challenges, spot legal issues. At the end of the day, you're helping people and you're advocating for them. I do believe that as part of that profession, you have a responsibility to advocate for anyone and everyone on or off the legal fee. And I'm not saying that every attorney, I mean, there's some attorneys you and I know that they only want to do transactional law. They never want to see the light of a courtroom. No problem. There's some that they always want to do criminal defense, no matter the crime the accused has committed. So every one of these people have chosen these passions for a reason, but what they have the ability to do, what I think others do not, is the voice to advocate for them. They know the rules to play within, and it's not for everybody to make social media videos. That's not my point. It's that I just happen to put my advice on social media. I give the same advice to my clients before they go into a deposition. Same communication concepts. So whether it's on camera or not on camera, I do believe that there's a responsibility to advocate for everybody.
So I'm still back on the story that you just gave. Very touching story about how you're affecting other children's lives through the content you're creating in this legal space. And just more of an internal story as someone who has kids myself, and you have younger children than I do. I have a 17-year-old, a 14-year-old. Yours are younger. How do you find the communication strategies that you talk to people about work when it comes to your own family?
You mean like in terms of, do I use these communication tips, or how do I do the communication?
When you have these little tips and you're dealing with small rulers of your house, how does that work out?
Well, man, it's always a little different because I am just so in love with my kids. Like I saw, where did I see it? Something about once you have kids, they become your favorite sound, your favorite smell. Like they just become your favorite of everything. I love to hear my kid's voice. I love the way they smell. You know what I mean? Like even after a day of playing, it's just, you become totally obsessed with them. So a lot of my communication, I just like to look at them. They want to argue with me. I just look at them like, God, you're so cool. And so I don't try and think of tactics really to handle them. I mostly think of tactics to handle me. And because I have to remember, this is their first time going through everything. So when I realize he's testing boundaries. This is why he's saying this, or he's doing this, because he's testing. He's seeing how far he can go. It's not personal. Or if I know she doesn't know how to express this emotion, and is it easier if I just say, it sounds like you're having a hard time, versus complaining that she's not using the right voice, or that she's crying again, or the same thing. They're both very different. And so I use little bitty techniques that work with them. Same thing with, I handle advice on interrupting. I have advice that I give on how I try to stay a little bit more empathetic to what they're telling me and trying to listen a little bit better. But they're not techniques to control them. They're techniques to control me.
It's interesting. I like that approach. Techniques to control me. And right now, in a stage of nonverbal communication, as far as your part, is like, that's the communication strategy you're using, absorbing it. I'm intrigued to see what happens when they're teenagers. I would imagine,
Yeah.
I would imagine, because I've watched some of your videos and thought like, that's a good. I need to use that with the way I talk to Grace. I think this would be a good conversation for when she's challenging me. Because actually, as they've gotten older, they challenge in a much more complicated way. To the point, I remember when they were younger, thinking, "Oh, those are little versions of me and my wife. They're running around. They exist in that beautiful moment." And as they get older, they get smarter, and then you realize they're just as challenging as I am. And they've learned all the words I use, so they're just as clever and how to talk back. So you've got this great career you've started. You took this leap. You coffee shop to cars to marketing to growing to all kinds of things. I know you also just released a book. Tell me more. What brought this on? What is the book about, and are you doing a tour? What's going on with that?
Yeah, thanks, Philip. So about 2 years ago, a lot of my followers were just saying, "You need to write a book. Please write a book." And I thought, okay, I don't know how to write a book. It was kind of the same thing with a video, but I'll find out. And I thought I started trying to self-publish it. And then I started getting hit up by other literary agents. And before you know it, I had a deal with Penguin Random House to write a book. And it is currently out for pre-order. It's called The Next Conversation, and you can get it wherever you like to order books. I'm also narrating the audiobook for it. It'll be out in March. And so the pre-order process always takes several months so that the publisher knows, how many to print by the time it's publication date. Mm-hmm. And it's just been a really cool process. It was a very long process. It is hard to write a book. I wrote the whole thing. I did have a book coach who helps keep you in line, just making sure I'm on task, helping me organize and structure my stuff. His name is Blake Atwood. He's fantastic. And anybody who's an author, my hat's off to them, because it is a lot of work to put as much of yourself into your writing. And it took a lot of time away from the family. My wife was so cool about it. She's totally understanding. But yeah, I'm really excited about it. I know I'm very proud of it. I know my followers are really going to like it.
Speaking about your book coach, did you convince them to start doing some social media one-off videos about giving some coaching tips so they can get more business?
Yeah, actually I did. And I think he was with a different group. And once we got done with my book, he decided to go off on his own and do some other stuff. So he's a great guy. But and now we're working on a workbook from a book. We'll do a journal and all kinds of other things that are happening in the works. So you just figure it out. Like there's not a blog, Philip, that I can read and say, "Oh, hey, you've hit 10 million followers. Here's what to do." So you really just rely on people that you meet and mentors that you can try to make, and relationships. I mean, everybody's just figuring it out. People who seem to know what they're doing have just been in it longer. They're still figuring stuff out too.
Do you have you're doing all these things in the communication world. Are you have any future goals, plans for your law practice? Any things that that you're looking to accomplish?
Well, the firm's going great. I think we have 12 attorneys now, and it's doing wonderful. It's changed. The dynamic certainly changed because of the social media stuff taking off. I am more really as a window front into cases from other states. So we have that
Mhm.
referral network drummed up, and then the people that hire our firm, I am able to have other attorneys work on it, thankfully. And the office is cool about it. They all understand. The hardest challenge is the people that call just wanting to talk to me.
Mhm.
So we have a whole separate system that we've learned for people that you're just calling just to talk, or they send fan mail. And so like there's this whole separate side of the business that we're still ironing out. I'll launch a membership next year. And so I'm really excited about that to hopefully teach some live classes and get that going to help more people. It's the firm's great. I don't think we're going to expand it anytime soon. I would probably be interested in maybe networking with other firms to continue like spread that practice. But in
Mhm.
terms of where I'm at, where I live, I think there's a lot of wisdom and discernment of just being very patient, just seeing how things develop and what feels right. And I'm definitely somebody who I don't take a step unless I feel it feels right to me at that time.
I like that. I like that. I mean, lots of words of wisdom in here. I'm looking forward to just listening to this back and taking a few of those lines out. And if we want to get them trademarked, I'll let you know which ones.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Please let me know. Yeah,
Well, I appreciate your time today, Jefferson. It's been an absolute pleasure getting to talk with you and hear about your journey and your path and some of the exciting things coming up. And I'm looking forward to watching over the course of the next few years to see what happens next in your